do. They put a governor on there. And that's kind of what Peter's saying here. He's like, you know what? Like, they didn't have go-karts back then, but if I was to use that analogy, Peter's like, you know what? If you can imagine a go-kart, like 2,000 years from now, has a governor on it, the governor moderates the speed. Well, we need something to govern what comes out of our mouth, because a lot of our natural instincts is to kind of just spit stuff out. And it's that stuff, man, we spit that stuff out, and we can't take it back. When you decide to verbally assault somebody, when you decide to go and gossip about somebody, when you decide to go and talk poorly about somebody, when you decide to go to someone's face and just berate them and get mad at them and say bad things about them to their face, you just can't take that stuff back. And it has a huge, lasting impact on that person. Not only how they view you, but how they end up viewing themselves. Our words are dangerous. They are incredibly dangerous. It's why James in James chapter 3 tells us to watch what comes out of our mouths. In fact, he tells us that the tongue is a very, very bad thing. It can be a very, very bad thing. All right? What does the tongue do? What does James say about the tongue? All right? The tongue, of course, is that part of the body that enables speech. All right? Everyone hold their tongue. Now, repeat after me, all right? I love empathy. All right, I didn't understand that. All right, I'm just saying. It's totally a miss. All right, I'm done. Drop your tongue. Put it back in your mouth. Close it without biting it, all right? Couldn't understand what you're saying. The tongue is that part of our body that kind of helps us speak clearly. So it has a good purpose. God created and designed it with a good purpose, but as we humans do a lot of times, we take what God designed for good, and a lot of times we end up making it incredibly bad. We're going to make it incredibly bad. Here's what James says the tongue can be for us in James chapter 3. First off, he says this: the tongue can be a ship that is steered by, it's like a ship that is steered by the rudder. All right? The rudder is a very small piece of the boat. Very small piece of the boat. But it controls kind of where and which direction that you go. So the tongue is very similar in that way. In that while it's a very small member of your body, it can control a lot of the direction that you end up taking in life. It can control that. And if it's not tamed, then you can get in big trouble. What else does James say? He says it's like a fire. It's like a big old fire, you know? I mean, all these crazy people, it seems like every year we read about forest fires in California. You think someone would get it, you know? A bunch of tree huggers. You think someone out there would get it. You know, keep fire away from wood, you know? Big wood that is like alive and there's trees and stuff, keep it away from there, right? That makes sense to us. That makes a lot of sense. Every year you hear about someone who flicked a cigarette butt and it went over there and it was really dry, boom, created a huge fire, right? You also hear about people who went camping in the woods that fell asleep, forgot about their little fire, you know, forgot that there was something going on over there. They wake up like halfway burned, and then they look around and the forest is on fire around them. You know, they're all flipping out, like, what do? I don't have enough water to put it out. Okay, let's run, you know, all right, that's good. No one catches them. Now half the, you know, city outside of Los Angeles is down. Millions of dollars in homes per year. Millions of dollars of homes, these millionaire homes that are huge, are burned down because of what started with just a small campfire or a small cigarette butt or something else. It did millions of dollars of damage, and James is saying here, hey, guess what? The tongue, it's just a small member of your body, but it can do huge damage. And guess what? Just like a fire becomes uncontrollable, the words that you speak to somebody, you cannot manage who hears them and when and how they hear it. You may have meant something in a really good way, and it may get taken in the worst context possible. And you can't manage that. Every word that comes out of your mouth, you need to go ahead and assume that the person you are talking about is going to hear about it. Because ultimately, that's what's going to happen. And if you decide that the words you're about to use are worth wrecking that person's life over, then speak them. If not, Peter's saying here, you need to govern that. You got to watch. I know it's tempting. I know you want that, but guess what? 1 Corinthians 10:13, what does God provide for us, right? A way of escape outside and away from that temptation. Some of you in here have huge problems with your words, how you use them, where you use them, and who you use them to. And you are creating a forest fire effect that is out of your control. And by the way, you end up secluding and isolating yourself because no one wants to be friends with a person they can't trust. Just remember that. When you're that person who's out there talking about the other stuff, remember, you're also that person that people are understanding time and time again that they can't trust. And in 5 years, you will have no close friends whom you can trust. Don't be that person. What else does James say? He says it's a restless evil. Like, just kind of roams around all the time. It's like it doesn't sleep, it just is always there. It just kind of floats and roams about. It's restless, meaning it's got to do something. It's got to act. It's got to behave. It's got to wreak havoc on people. It's a restless evil. That you've seen Lord of the Rings. You've seen the eye, the freakishly weird eyeball thing. It's like up there. It's like, it's like looking at you like you're like, stop looking at me, eye. What's going on with this thing? Really scary. It's kind of like that. It's just like a restless evil about. And it does evil stuff if you allow it, and you learn to govern that. And the last thing that it says is this, it's full of deadly poison. Man, let me give you guys an illustration of what can happen in a relationship, friendship, when you use your words the wrong way. Back when I was up at Liberty, one of my best friends, his name was John Rulo. And I went up there to Liberty, and I met him right away when I was in seminary, and I was on a seminary traveling team, and he was in charge of the seminary traveling teams. We went out and did disciple nows and cool things like premier weekends for smaller churches that couldn't afford them. So we go and put it on with a team, and I go there and lead that team over there. And John Rulo became one of my closest and best friends. Man, he invited me to be on his flag football team. I got on his flag football team, and we were able to go, and we won the state, we won the regions, and then we went down to New Orleans for the national championship. We got the 4th round in there, which was like